listening to the Batman Universe Commentaries, brought to you by thebatmanuniverse.net. Join the staff of the Batman Universe as we watch another exciting incarnation of the Caped Crusader from his extensive media library.
Welcome back to the Batman Universe Commentaries. As always, I am the host for this very irregular segment, Donovan. And as of late, I have been joined by my good friend and co-host from the Gotham Chronicle, Joshua.
Hey, hello, folks. This is being recorded from the past, so whoever's listening in the future, if you want to give me spoilers for how this whole Hurricane Irma thing is going to go, it is currently September. What's today's date?
September 10th.
Okay, so it's September 10th, 2017, and Hurricane Irma is hours from my city. So will this be my final recording? Will this be Florida's final hour? Who knows? But I was like, Don, if something happens to me, if this will be my last day on Earth, let's record another commentary for the Batman Universe Commentaries.
It was always going to end this way.
Yeah. This is how I want to spend my final moments. Which, as a brief aside, do you remember what was that one shot called around Final Crisis where it was everyone's last day on Earth and
totally forgot about that.
Corey's waiting for Dick at the grave of his parents. She's like, where could Dick possibly be instead of here? And he's with Bruce and Tim, doing an homage to Batman #1's cover.
I forgot about that. That was Final Crisis. I gotta see that again.
Yeah. Which, speaking of Tim and Dick and Bruce.
Oh, yes. And Barbara and Alfred.
Well, they weren't in that one shot, but they'll be in this. Spoiler. Can you guess what episode we're doing? That's right. It's the classic episode, I've Got Batman in My Basement.
We love it so much. No, this is Sense of the Father, which is the second episode of the new Batman Adventures / Season 4 Batman the Animated Series. And the first one to provide... This is the first one that provides an origin story for Tim Drake. Tim Drake beat Jason Todd to being adapted into other media. At least
and he's told Jason Todd's origin to do it.
Exactly. So, what are our thoughts? I mean, we have plenty of thoughts about this episode and this era of Batman episodes. But what are your thoughts going into this episode, Josh?
Just to give it I have to give it some backstory because, and Don and I have been talking about this, off mic too a lot, that, when this came on, I was in a Batman phase again, thanks to, Batman and Robin and stuff like that, and I was reading the comics, and I loved Tim Drake. So I knew that Batman was coming back, and it was going to be on Kids WB and not Fox Kids, and the designs were going to be new. But Donovan and I have talked about this before. We were both very confused because of the new character designs, because Batman did not have the yellow oval anymore, and that used to mean that he was, this takes place in the past. This is a pre, new look era, because whenever you saw flashbacks, it was if you needed a visual cue that this was an origin story, the origin of the Justice League or Batman and Superman's first meeting, he wouldn't have the yellow oval, and Robin was younger.
Yeah, we didn't know. In the comics, he had a yellow oval until after No Man's Land, so very much so it was different that he had the single bat.
And now he's lost the oval for 17 years, so it's actually very well. I mean, he had it again for a brief period, a pre-Flashpoint around Batman Inc. But which I love that oval. It's a good instinct. But in any case, we'll be here forever talking about
the comics,
the history. But so we thought this took place in the past, and then and also Robin's younger. So okay, this makes sense, because we have a younger Robin. It takes place in so this is Dick Grayson when he's younger. Had this happened now, and we were more internet savvy and the internet was a bigger deal, we would have already known months ahead of time, oh cool, Tim Drake's going to be in the new Batman show. We didn't know any of this. We didn't see any articles or look on any websites that this was going to be Tim Drake. So we thought this was a young Dick Grayson. So when Holiday Nights happened and everything looks like it's in the past, except Barbara Gordon and Batgirl is there, which like I was like, wait, how can? And my family like tried to like calm my continuity brain down as a kid. They were like, well, maybe she was Batgirl in the old days, and then she just became Batgirl again in Shadow of the Bat. And I was like, no, that doesn't make sense.
And Commissioner Gordon is obviously older.
Yeah, that didn't strike me as much. Like, I mean, obviously, like visually, it struck me, but like that didn't bother me as much as the presence of Batgirl. So this episode cleared up a few things for me, but it also confused a few things for me, which I'll get to when we watch it. But I was very excited about it though when he said the name Tim Drake, because like Tim Drake at the time, like I was reading the Chuck Dixon Robin series and like I was really into it, and Tim Drake was like my favorite character at the time. So like seeing him adapted like in a cartoon, because at the time like we had not had a Robin that wasn't Dick Grayson like in any other media. Like it was always Dick Grayson. So like just the thought of even like getting like these new characters, it was very revolutionary. Like nowadays, like on like, you know, these CW shows and, you know, and stuff like that in other media, we get different incarnations of the characters, but like I never hoped or dreamed that like we would get like any of the other Robins on TV. So this was cool.
Yeah, I agree with you that like very much. And I believe I mentioned this when I did the Holiday Nights commentary a couple years ago, that when you first see Batman and Robin in Commissioner Gordon's office, you know, looking at a video from the Joker, Batman's in his, like, you know, year one era, Legends of the Dark Knight, you know, pre-new look, you know, kind of like David Mazzucchelli designed that suit, and Robin's significantly smaller and in a different costume. So you're like, oh, okay, this is a flashback. Not knowing that Holiday Nights was sort of a preview to like how the new adventures would kind of go down.
Never mind the fact that Clayface was there too, which never registered to me. Like, wait a second,
yeah,
did he get an origin? Like,
right, yeah, exactly, yeah. It was bizarre.
Shoot the Santa. You wouldn't. Like, Bullock legitimately thinks that was a real suggestion.
I like that line. But yeah, I agree with you that like when I was a kid, I may have mentioned this in another podcast before, but like I had trouble differentiating Robins. Like one of my earliest comics was the Nightfall issue where Bane kidnaps Tim Drake and like he fights Killer Croc. My aunt got that for me one year, and I remember seeing when he thinks to himself, you know, okay, Tim, think on the bright side. I was like, Tim, his name is supposed to be Dick, because Dick Grayson wore Tim Drake's costume in the animated series, and he was Dick Grayson in the '60s show. I wasn't really, you know, because like, you know, when you're a kid in the early '90s, in the early '90s, mind you, no pre-internet, there's no real way to kind of learn without somebody giving you the backstory that like there were other Robins, and you know the idea that
luckily there was a lot of exposition back then in comics.
Well, I mean, like the idea of like because I had heard about the Joker killing a Robin, and I was like, well, that's horrifying, but like, wait, what's this Nightwing character? I hear that he's Dick Grayson, and like it did take me a few years to kind of get the continuity straight, but I believe I was aware. Like by the time this came around, I definitely knew that Tim Drake was Robin. I definitely had read the Robin series, and it was very exciting just to like see, just to kind of, you know, I thought that like, okay, you know, as we'll see later on in the series, Nightwing's in here, and you know we see Batgirl more often. I thought that the animated series was going to just be more actively like the comics, and this is sort of their first step to it. Now, we'll get into during the commentary and probably afterwards, like, you know, how they work with the origin, how they characterize Tim Drake, and I have this conversation a lot with other people in terms of like, you know, how much of him is actually Tim Drake from the comics and how much of him is like Jason Todd from the comics. And we'll get into that as we get into the future. But I like this episode. I mean, I like how they did Tim in this series. And if I think overall the original animated series is like on the whole better than the new Batman Adventures, I still really like the new Batman Adventures because it was so exciting at the time to watch these episodes. And it was a real thrill that like it brings me back to my childhood when I watched these episodes, because I remember seeing these for the first time, and it was really exciting to see what would happen next and how these characters would be further developed. So yeah, I'm looking forward to this.
All right, so we're paused at, I think it says 7 seconds in. It's we're watching this via Amazon Prime, so I don't know how it shows up on your DVDs, what kind of opening it has, but on Amazon Prime, it's the original Fox Kids opening.
If you're watching the DVDs, you have to actively make it become the WB opening. Otherwise, it'll automatically be the Batman opening from the Fox show.
Interesting. So we're at the point where like Bugs Bunny's already appeared on the screen, and now it's the WB logo, and it's about to turn into a blimp. and it's about to morph into a police blimp. That's where we're paused. So if we're all ready, folks, we're gonna go at 0. 3, 2, 1, 0. Oh shoot! Okay, I was trying to turn the volume down without actually.
No, you're good.
It.
No, it's good.
It's actually weird that that they never got their own opening. They call it the Gotham Knights season, right. And it was never even called Gotham Knights while there. It was just like the new Batman Superman adventure. It was never.
They wanted to be Gotham Knights, but WB just said, "Let's just do this," and they were annoyed.
It's kind of like an orphan show because it doesn't have its own opening separate from Superman, and it doesn't have its own title separate from Superman. They call it the new Batman Adventures,
and even the Superman Batman opening, most of that is either new footage separate from either show or footage from Batman the Animated Series. The only shot is from Holiday Nights.
And that's the last we'll see of that animation in this episode.
Red Skies.
Sins of the Father. Oh yes, this is the season with time dilation portholes, Dormammu, and Sins of the Father was a whole season of Spider-Man, folks. Everyone knows Tim Drake loves donuts.
Yeah, here is it. After seeing Holiday Nights, this also confused me. I don't think I knew immediately that he was Robin, but it's that looks and sounds.
I remember thinking, oh, this must be Jason Todd. I remember actively thinking that at this point. There's in the Batman Lost Years comic, there's an extended intro to this where you see I think you see Tim saying goodbye to his dad. It's been years since I read the issue, but you see a montage of him stealing stuff, and then oh yeah, that I forgot that he. Yeah, I think you even see him get the Batarang. It's been years since I read it, but anyway, eventually, after the montage of him stealing stuff, you have the "Hey kid, my donut," and it's this, and that's not page 2. That's page 4 or 5 or something. So I actually like the extended intro.
This really was confusing to new viewers because granted, I know that there's an interview where they talk about in '97 what they're going to do, but if you went
they did say Drake just here. Maybe I ignored that as a kid.
Oh yeah. Yeah, Shifty Drake. Shifty Jack Drake.
Who tore the TV out of his wall.
Never not mention that.
Yeah, so I'm trying to remember at what point I realized this was Tim Drake and not Jason Todd. I feel like it was when he said his name. Just like Tim in the comics, he's a Batman fanboy.
Yes, that's
why would he not use his front door?
And I also said that because of the different censors from one channel to another, this version of Batman cartoons it is much darker than the Fox show. When I say that, I mean in different ways. They're I don't know if they ever shot at a child in the original show, and Two-Face straight up says kill this kid later on.
Destroy him.
I think he hits him in the face, right? And destroy him.
He comes face to face with both Tim Drake and Robin.
I'm not afraid of you.
And has no idea what they're saying. I love Richard Mall is my Two-Face. This is the perfect version of Two-Face for me.
You stole something from me.
I remember it was a gas.
This is actually one of my favorite kind of Two-Face episodes, even though he's just the bad guy, but he has some really killer lines that I enjoy.
I remember this, the goodbye note, Timmy. I must have known at this point it wasn't Jason Todd because they say Tim so many times.
Yeah, this is straight up. I mean, this is not exactly how Jason Todd's post-Crisis Dad went up, but the connection is very much the same, working for Two-Face.
I think the reason why when he said no one messes with Tim Drake I got excited was because we had Drake on the door and we had Timmy, but they didn't say it and they never said Tim Drake. It was just yes, finally hearing it was so satisfying.
The Batman. Well, I think Tim Drake, yeah, there's something about that name for comic fans. That's very like definitive, even though it's not as like, worldwide as Dick Grayson.
Like even though I knew it was Tim Drake, and like they said Tim, and we knew his last name was Drake, hearing the words Tim Drake were satisfying.
Yeah, especially from these like voice actors, like Alfred saying Master Tim and stuff. That's really cool.
Yeah, after again, like in
hurts.
the '90s, thinking that we were never going to get. Ow.
Yeah,
that we were never going to.
Hurts.
Thinking that we were never going to get like a Tim Drake on TV. I miss Two-Face's old henchmen, the singing incest twins from the Harley Quinn movie.
Yeah, don't worry about us explaining that.
Oh, I'm sure that the fans know.
This is an interesting. When you think about, this is how like the next Batman and Robin meet. This is pretty simple, don't you think? Like it's a little bit more convoluted with all the other characters, but this is pretty like straightforward. Like that's.
Can you see all the notifications that I'm getting because we're doing Rabid?
No.
Okay, good. I was like, that would be a distract. Oh, he saves Batman. I forgot about this. Just like in Lonely Place of Dying.
Yeah, sort of. Not as much as like Batman Forever, but
yeah.
Yeah, I remember watching this. Like, do they know each other already? Like, we're saying, like he had a batarang. Like, I was confused.
Yeah, if only we had the internet. If we had the internet, we wouldn't have known this episode was coming months in advance. Like, oh, cool, we're going to see Tim and Batman together at last.
I remember when like they're going home, it looks like they're in a crash, and he's like, "Oh my god, oh my god, oh my god."
He's Vicky Vale.
Yeah.
This reminds me of actually Legends of the Dark Knight. Like, good job, Robin. Master Bruce, what do you say?
Oh yeah.
What do you mean, where'd he go? Underwater. It's a boat.
Kevin Conroy was actually just in Nashville this week for a convention that I had no idea about.
Good. Could you say "Oh my God" on Fox Kids? I don't know.
Very rarely, like a few times, but they do it a lot more. I don't think you can say it in that much of a succession.
At last, a Batman show where you could say "Oh my God," Alfred. No,
well, Harley was like, "Oh my god,
oh
my god, we killed him." I like that. I am Batman. Oh wait, he's right next to you.
This is actually like, if you remove our whole Tim Drake fanboyness from this is actually very, very like kind of contrived. Like the kid who like
it was contrived.
We'd accuse it of being like a Wesley Crusher type thing, like the kid who like happens to be taken in the Batman's confidence and like rescues him and goes to the Batcave.
Yeah, like the way that they address him up to this point feels very inconsistently familiar.
It's the real Robin suit, isn't it?
How many times have we said this in our conversations?
How many times have we said it wrong? I thought he said the original Robin suit. Which, Dick never wore that suit in the Fox Kids show, so I guess, and we've never seen... Because in Robin's Reckoning, we see, the beginnings of him becoming Robin, but we don't see him putting on a Robin costume in the flashbacks. So, we only ever see him Robin as an adult, so I guess he could have worn that costume in the old days.
That's what I always have.
God, Alfred, you had one job.
I know. And he never looks sufficiently surprised. He's like, oh dear.
So, when I said that there was another thing about this that confused me, and I would get to it in the commentary, that thing is about to happen.
Since when was Bruce Wayne ever this rich? No.
Why isn't Aunt Agatha sleeping in front of him?
He's cashed out.
Alfred had one job.
It's very interesting. Your parents? Does the hurt ever go away?
Look at all these awards. And here it comes.
Actually, when I saw that, I thought that was a school. Like, ooh.
I was like, okay, so at the time I was like, wait, she knows who they are? Because in the Fox Kids, they didn't know who she was, and she didn't know who they were.
Yeah.
So this really confused me.
I don't know if we said this in the BTO commentary you did for the Shadow of the Bat, but Batman is actually very he does not mind Batgirl even before she knows who he is. Like, oh, she could stay and fight crime. I think he chastises her once, but he doesn't even care to find out who she is until he does.
Yeah, which I love the Lost Years miniseries because that bridges the gap to this. Whereas when they did that with Old Wounds, like he just knows and we don't see how he found out.
Yeah, because like the whole "he's Batman" answer comes into play.
Oh gosh, he's shown from Boy Meets World. I can take care of myself, my old man. Yeah, that's just like Batman. No one messes with Tim Drake.
Yeah, say the name.
I found it after you scraped the bangers out of the hood. Just like Batman.
It's an unfortunate moment.
Nobody messes with Tim Drake.
Except Two-Face.
This feels like a Poochie thing. Like, I swear, he's a cool, happening kid. And like,
I wouldn't say it's that much far, but like it is very like kind of like
this isn't aging too well for me.
it's like the last episode we did. She has like claws in her clothes. That's kind of neat.
Do you recognize
Yeah. I don't hate it, but I'm just saying some of the Tim Drake characterization, I'm seeing.
Well, I will say that like
he
he had better episodes than this. I love.
Totally.
Never Fear.
I'm not even mad, which I think I said during Grey Ghost, but it's.
Well, I mean, the Great Fear are bad. Never Fear and especially Growing Pains are like two of my favorite episodes they ever did, and Tim was fantastic in that. Here, it's a little
that smile again.
It is a little like kind of cloying. Nice one, William.
Drop it.
I also think the animation is kind of slow in this. Like it's not. Yeah, it's kind of like going from scene to scene. It's not very dynamic.
I don't think so, boys.
That was necessary.
Employees only. Two-Face, you're not an employee.
Get out of my way.
Yeah, it wasn't very nice, Harvey.
He's running pretty fast with the busted rib.
I was actually wondering how Batman caught up to him after going to his cave and like with Two-Face having a head start.
Oh, the Batmobile is super fast. It's always bulletproof suitcases.
I feel bad for whoever's suitcase that is.
My glasses!
It's boiling acid. What better way to trap a bat? I was listening to Everyone Loves the Drake the other day, and they were playing clips of Tommy Lee Jones from that scene.
I also
Can Tim
remember
Drake
that
save him in time?
when the light shines on his costume, it's it's still black as opposed to bluish. I don't mind this Batman costume, but it's not my favorite because it is so devoid of color. Even the Dawn of Justice thing. I'm not just Dawn of Justice. I think it's certainly a perfectly valid approach to the costume, but to me, I like the blue in it. Yeah, that's the same room that Dick Grayson had.
First time we see him grieving his dad.
The Obey Man.
My mom is dead. Of course, I'll become Speedy.
I think I've ID'd his father.
Jack Drake.
Stephen Shit Drake.
No! He looks like a jerk.
Robbery, armed robbery, grand theft,
Started when he was a kid.
No, there's Jason Todd.
just like his son.
You're looking for sympathy.
From you, heaven forbid. What's the matter?
They found a John Doe in Metropolis River whose Prince Matchett's father.
How'd he die, though?
That means he's not coming
Shot in the
back.
head or something.
My old man, he's gone for good. But if John Doe is right. Well, you can't be absolutely.
Yes.
I remember thinking that was really cold of Batman, but then as I'm older, I get why he did that. He didn't want to give him false hope.
I love how they don't actually say the words he's dead or whatever. It's we found a John Doe. That means he's never coming back. So if you're 5 years old, you could be like, Mommy, what's a John Doe? It's a guy who buys a one-way ticket somewhere. And
I love this.
Like
This is one of my favorite Two-Face rants. It's just a villain rant, but the voice performance is so cool.
it's a color video image. Do we ever get color video in Batman the Animated Series?
There was one time they did it where they said it was a mistake, but
This is a mistake. We must never do it again.
they're dying and the dead. That's awesome. I love Two-Face in this show.
That's not what his father thought. We've got to find Two-Face.
So Tim Drake's dad wasn't such a bad guy because he didn't want the city to be like gas, so he hid the stuff.
He deserved to die.
Well, no, he wasn't so bad.
Right. He had a conscience.
He's not Jack Drake either.
Well, he doesn't belong in Arkham like.
Oh, he's like, I'm going with you in my pajamas.
I like this.
You're not even wearing shoes, kid.
I've waited my whole life. Batman out.
I was thinking like they're gonna like ignite the fire thing and burn. Stop, dropping, romance.
This line too, again, confused me. Where he says like, it made Master Dick. Like, is he dead? Did Dick die?
Yes, I thought that too. Until spoiler, the last few seconds of the show.
Yeah, most unfortunate. It's like, did they kill him? Did they blow up? This is such a confusing episode.
It's like Tim Drake is Jason Todd and Dick Grayson's also Jason Todd. Like,
I love this line too. Idiots, get the mask, boys. Yeah, I as a Two-Face fan, this is a really good one. Even though there's more important stuff going on. He's here.
And of course, Alfred, just Lonely Place, he's like stealth encouraging him to be Robin. It's like, oh yes, you remind me of Robin. Look at that costume over there.
I like. Where is he in the face? Yeah, Alfred is very not very hands on about. Maybe that's why Master Dick brought you to put on this costume. And this is also this is not the first time, but the second time that Tara Strong's Batgirl.
Yeah. I mean, and we've met, we meet Tara Strong every year at Comic-Con for almost the last decade, and she's great, and
yeah.
And
I think I underestimated how much she loved being Batgirl.
I don't want to presume too much, but I believe it's Stella's favorite Batgirl.
I think she has said that, yeah.
Yeah.
I said before that, I like, because she's not the original Batgirl voice. I liked Melissa someone, I forget her name, for voicing Batgirl. But
Gilbert?
Melissa Gilbert, I believe?
Yeah.
I think that's just a pretty good voice for Batgirl. But Tara Strong, is certainly.
Tim Drake says to no one.
But we missed all the fun. Bam. Right in the cameras. It's a 3D episode. There's a lot of punching in this episode.
He doesn't start the timer at 2 minutes. You're going to talk in your face.
Cut. Retake. Get him. Oh, yeah? Wow.
You really think you can kill Batman and Batgirl? And Robin? And Robin.
Yeah, there's that connection, too. It may be, a coincidence that Jason Todd killed, his dad was killed by Two-Face, but, Two-Face was in the
it's not just that he's a street urchin, it's that, his dad, did work for Two-Face, and then, Two-Face killed him. That is directly Jason Todd.
Yes,
at least post-Crisis Jason Todd. Pre-Crisis was Killer Croc.
But putting on a costume and showing up when Two-Face is there is Tim Drake. I love
Two-Face
Batman.
Two-Face is an idiot in this scene.
It's you! I actually really love, oops.
And he saw Batman run off with Tim Drake earlier in the episode. I remember you call him Puke.
He knows explicitly who Tim Drake is. Yeah, I agree. He's dumb.
Puke face, because it's the 90s. It's been a long time. You're lifting him up from the ground. This is obviously not
one arm.
Robin. Yeah,
I think Robin was taller than him in the last show.
Come on.
Plenty of time. I was talking about this on the Everyone Loves the Drake podcast guys on Facebook. That what are your opinions on this costume? Because it is legit a different Robin costume than anyone that's been done at that time. It's like red pants.
Yeah, no, because they used it in the comics, and I complained that they were copying the animated series,
which they said they did.
Of course they. Don't tell me that they didn't.
Well, no. I mean, literally, I saw an interview this week. They said that they straight up did that because of the animated series. You're right.
Even though the animated series was not doing new episodes and hadn't been for a long time.
Almost 10 years.
Yeah. And in fact, at that point, wasn't the Teen Titans show a thing and where he wore a different costume? So.
Yeah. Well, yeah, it was. But my boy was here, black gloves and red leggings is no green. That was
another few seconds, and Mr. Goldfinger would have whatever the line is.
Watch Batman's face.
Let me at him. Let me at him.
I'll smash him. I'll splat him. I always liked that. That was funny. This made me geek out.
This actually reminds me of Jason Todd. Because
well, we see this.
This is the first thing you see after he takes Jason Todd from Ma Guns.
Right. This is a great scene, though. We don't see them at the firing range. I remember the comic panels of this one.
I make the rules.
Yeah, I love Kevin Conroy.
Watch out for that last one.
Oh, man.
It's the Green Ranger.
And you know what it is? Because it's still Lauren Lester, because it's a different design, it was like,
oh look how happy Barbara is.
That was so great. Like that, I remember when I first saw that, I was jumping up and down like all
He's
day
not
long.
dead after all. He's not a John Doe.
Oh, thank God.
So in Lost Years, what they did with that was the Tim Drake adaptation ends. I don't remember how it ends, but like the it doesn't have that scene because then like the last issue of Lost Years.
Yeah.
The last issue of Lost Years is a Nightwing origin story, and he like returns to Gotham at the end, and he's like, and then like after he has his adventure, he goes to see Bruce, and then like
Lost Years was like the comic it was like the comic version of the animated series. They bridged the 2-year time difference between the Fox show and the WB show, and they showed you like the Old Wounds flashback in a 2-parter, like issue 1 and 2.
Well, and the years before Old Wounds aired, like Old Wounds took it from this comic.
Oh yeah, okay. I can't even forget that. And then like
yeah.
issue 1 and 2 was like Old Wounds part 1 and 2. 3 was was Since the Father. 4 was Dick Grayson training as Nightwing, and 5 was him continuing training. And then by the end, he came back as Nightwing.
Well, no, I think it was Dick continuing training because then like the last page of like Lost Years is like you see this scene like I make the rules, and you see it from Dick's point of view. He says, "Watch out for that last one." And after he says, "No one can be a boy wonder forever," like it continues for like a few more like pages, like or not pages, but like
miss me,
like,
don't even.
And, yeah, which is funny because like she totally is happy to see him in this. Like she's like, "Hey, Barbara, you miss me?" And then Alfred's like, "Excuse me, guys, you know, like the bat signal's been like so."
Excuse me, guys.
I don't have that in front of me. So, like, they all go out. He's like, "So what do you call yourself now?" And then there's, like, a full page where, like, he says, "You can call me." And he's in the Nightwing costume. Nightwing. Hey, why is Joey wearing that?
I knew you were going to do I predicted the future, which would have been awesome. Well, we call him Jericho.
And what's he doing here in this dojo?
What if Tim Drake was Jericho? Because technically, he didn't have to be Robin.
Sure. He stole Jason Todd's life. He might as well.
To be Jericho, he's wearing this like a mutton chop afro wig.
Awesome. His dad was killed by Deathstroke.
So what else do we think about this? There's a lot to say about this episode. What do you think about Tim Drake overall? How they did them in the show? Okay, here we go.
I was not expecting to have this reaction when I came in this because I have very fond memories of this, and I was happy to see Tim Drake. That being said, like this comes off as like
you're gonna love this fresh, hip, new character.
I'm bracing myself. I know I'm bracing myself for a fight here, but like it's like this comes off as like pandering to like kids. It's like because like Tim Drake is like it feels like. I don't want to say a Mary Sue, but like just basically like a kid wish fulfillment character who like, you know, he beats up the bad guys.
As opposed to Tim Drake from the comics. Who literally was
fair point, but Tim Drake from the it wasn't like, hello, puke face and like, you know, stuff like that and like I don't need no one. Just like Batman, no one messes with Tim Drake and like he's immediately taken into like Batman's like, you know, home and stuff like that and
well, I mean like Jason Todd straight up said no one messes with the Jason Todd and Batman took him into his home. Well,
and then fans voted to blow him up. Well, what's your point?
Brilliant. Touche. You're a worthy adversary.
Now,
oh man, that's awesome.
unless I'm remembering the rest of the animated series wrong, and this is all through Roasting Glass, I feel like Tim is toned down after this episode. Like,
Yeah, he is.
he's not doing the whole like scrappy dappy do thing, and like after they defeat Two-Face, he's like, yeah, let me at him. You I'm up, I knock him down. Hey, Batman. Blah, blah. Now, granted, I feel like he showed some reverence in that final scene, though, in the way that he should have. Like the final scene wasn't like, like Tim Drake on a skateboard as like Barbara and like Bruce are like, here we go again.
Well, yeah, because it's Batman. They're never going to do that.
Yeah, so I will say, like, part of this feels like 90s kid wish fulfillment, character a little bit, which in fairness, yes, Tim Drake in the comics was, but he wasn't as like in your face, like 90s kid about it. I don't hate this. And I feel like
I think it's fair to say that, like, how different.
But like some of this has not aged well for me.
What I want to say is that, like, on that point, because I remember listening to a podcast where they talk about this, and this is, like compared to the other ones, Tim's actually kind of annoying in this. I don't personally find him annoying, but I can see why others do. I think it's because I like this episode from my childhood so much that, like, a lot of that is I'm aware of it, but like I kind of like just it doesn't bother me necessarily. Like the whole puke face thing and knowing Mr. Tim Drake. I mean, I think that bit was they were trying to make him because they tried to have him be an amalgam because in the DVDs there's a special feature on one of the DVDs that it's a Robin feature, and they talk about how they after Dick Grayson in the comics, it was Jason Todd, he got killed by the Joker. They knew they couldn't do that. So, in the comics at the time was Tim Drake, so they made him Tim Drake, but they added Jason Todd embellishes. I think what they were trying to do is, they were trying to have him part of the origin and part of the ambitious attitude of Jason Todd, while having certain elements of Tim Drake, like him being a fan of Batman, him liking Batman, sort of the hero worship thing. And as I've argued before that, like, he wasn't always Tim Drake in this show. I mean, everybody's very like, he was just Jason Todd with Tim Drake's name. High five, everybody. Like, there are episodes where he's very much like, to me, like Tim and his personality from the comics.
Yeah. Well, and like, he wears his hair like differently in his civilian identity after this. Like, he always has it like slicked down and stuff.
Right. Like Dick Grayson did. So, like, I mean, I think that, like, in this version, this episode is only really good just to introduce Tim Drake. It's not a great episode, although I think Two-Face's dialogue is awesome everywhere through. But at the same time, because the animated series was very, like, episodic. It didn't really have continuity episodes, so you didn't really see like a lot of introduction things except for Batgirl. So because of that, I just happen to enjoy it. I think if kids saw it nowadays, they might think it's too slow or Tim's annoying, but like
the end will be like Tim Drake is ruined forever. Like.
Well, yeah, they probably would say that.
Or like, how dare they name Jack Drake Stephen Drake? Like, don't they know that, like, don't they know how important Jack Drake is to the Tim Drake mythos?
Well, I think also too, like as we said back in the day, we never imagined there'd be more than one Robin. So I think no one even thought to complain that there'd be changes
on the TV show, like not the comics, but because the comics always because the TV shows always had things that like their default, like that like the way that people knew them from like the movies and stuff, like they were never going to move beyond that, like. That's why I was surprised when like Spider-Man got married on the cartoon. I was like, "Oh, we're doing this," and then she melted.
But yeah, I think that like what needs to be remembered here is that, like, when you grow up, I say grow up, when most of your childhood is with the animated series, which is a very like timeless version of Batman, you're not expecting like a further evolution of the mythos. So like, it kind of, to me, honestly, it didn't matter if Tim Drake was a happening dude and half a third Fonzarelli or whatever. Like he. Because this is just his origin story. I mean, like he's still like Robin, and I love Robin. So like, it's more to do with personal bias than anything else. I don't think this is a bad episode, but it's there are parts that are dated.
No, it's not a bad episode. It's just Tim Drake like comes off very obnoxious, and I was not expecting that.
So be it. Yeah, I mean, again, I will say that like two of my favorite episodes, Growing Pains and Never Fear. Like he really kind of rules in those episodes, and even when he's getting kind of pissy at Bruce in Growing Pains, like it's a very emotionally driven episode. So I would say if you're seeing this the first time, don't stop at this one to kind of write them off. I'm interested to hear what the Everyone Loves the Drake guys think about this episode. We're probably robbing them of commentary by doing this now, but whatever.
Well, they can still do their own.
Yeah, exactly.
Everyone loves the Drake.
Is there anything else to talk about this one?
I think we got it covered.
All right.
Hey, is that a hurricane? Whoa, this is Josh signing off. If I die tonight, that's going to be a really dark ending.
Well, dark in hindsight, yes. Right now, it's a wacky, goofy, lighthearted joke. But okay, until the next commentary, this is Don.
And this is Josh.
And you've been listening to the Batman Universe commentaries. We'll see you guys in the next one.
Homeless Tim Drake.
Actually.